Good morning. I think this is the first time I've ever introduced something on a Sunday. It's very exciting. If you don't know, I'm Caitlin Mcfarland, one of the co-founders and head of programming with programming. I'm so excited for this particular panel. I know you hear me say that probably at all of my intros, but beyond being massive Good Place fans and telling NBC truly send a writer, send a producer, send a director, people will want to talk about this show at this festival. They sent us these two, which is amazing. And then to be able to do the crossover about the podcast and sort of its own living sort of iteration in a different form is very ATX. So we're very thrilled to do this. They'll talk about it, but the TV Campfire and the Good Place podcast will be releasing these as special episodes. So download the TV Campfire immediately and the Good Place podcast. So yeah, without further ado, Ben Blacker.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Good morning. Are you having an incredible festival? I understand it's Sunday morning, but you can do better than that. Are you having a great fest? Good. And are you fans of Cheers? Yeah, I should hope so. Well, we have a surprise for you. This is not about Cheers. My name is Ben Blacker. I created and host a podcast called The Writers Panel, in which I talk to writers about... Correct? Thank you. I also am the co-creator of a long-running stage show and podcast called The Thrilling Adventure Hour, which is... Oh, thank you. That's great. That's great to hear. So I'm well acquainted with one of our guests, and I'm thrilled to chat with the other one. We're going to talk about the Good Place podcast. We're going to talk about the Good Place television program. Are you fans of that show? Oh, thank God. Oh, imagine if you weren't. We're here for Doctor Who. We're Broadchurch fans. What if? Guys, Sunday morning at the fest, though, right? I want to make sure that you all have questions. I want to get to as many of your questions as we can. I feel weird sitting right now. I'm going to stand up. I want to make sure that we get to as many of your questions as we can. So please think of your questions in advance. Condense that question to one sentence long, a sentence that ends in a question mark. Please continue clapping for our unbelievable panelists, Marc Evan Jackson and D'Arcy Carden.
D'Arcy Carden, ladies and gentlemen.
Marc Evan Jackson, y'all.
Please. Now, I think...
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. What I think most...
Oh, I would have loved that.
That would have been fun.
One year at this festival, a moderator did not show up, and I was downstairs having a coffee, and they said, Ben, will you come up and moderate this panel? It's about scoring or something weird like that I didn't know anything about.
Scoring or something stupid like that.
Nobody said that.
You said that.
It was your
something
tone.
I didn't know
your tone.
I think it was implied.
Okay.
Something I didn't know anything about, and I ran upstairs and was like, I got it, let's go. It's great to meet the panelists. I have their names written in front of me. I sat down in the director's chair that they had given me and crashed right through it.
Those director's chairs are scary. I didn't
Right?
fall yesterday, but I was real wiggly.
It was rickety.
Yeah, those things are meant to fall.
Now, here's the thing. I think a lot of Good Place fans know that both Marc and D'Arcy are tremendous improvisers, right?
Yes, that's true.
Tell me about...
Yes, we are. Thank you. Yes, we are.
And so we really planned very little for this recording. So what I need right now from you is a word, a suggestion from the audience. Just one word, and that's going to get us started. Throw out a word. I heard barbecue. I heard barbecue. Do you have any stories about barbecue? How's craft service on The Good Place?
It's great.
It's
Actually-
something that doesn't come up very often on the podcast.
And honestly, let's talk about it for the hour. You know? No, we do have great food.
It's. I sometimes get asked which shows have the best, and it's legitimately The Good Place. I mean,
Is that right?
They you could gain weight.
Oh,
Like you
yeah.
could. They bring you like first of all, there's a full table of like hot food and everything, and then it's basically like a free convenience store. Like,
Y'all, I love free food.
yeah.
It is hard to resist, right? And also, there's so much of it. Do you ever take some home?
No, but I've seen.
Yeah. He does.
Yeah,
he does.
yeah.
He does. Do you know who he said? Manny. Yeah, Manny. Yeah. I have started doing the like to-go box for lunch, just and then just really
But that's
pack it full.
catering. That's
Yeah,
even
a
different.
different thing.
Craft is like a giant table filled with generally healthy things,
But
but
then
also like
also-
nerds ropes.
Yeah.
Like anything you could ever hope for, I think, is available. And then they go around several times per day with like in the morning it'll be trays of like sort of coffee-themed mocha smoothies.
I don't know how to sit on this couch.
And perfect. And then later in the day, you'll be like, at the moment that you're like, lunch was an hour ago, and I'm already, oh wow, tacos.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, we eat.
They just come
Basically-
around with
That's nice.
stuff.
That's
Yeah,
nice.
it's phenomenal.
Let me ask you both. This is career-wise.
Yeah.
This is sort of a big show. You've both been around for some time. You've appeared
Right.
on a lot of shows, but to recur to be on a show like this, on a network show, you can sort of understand someone like Manny taking the food home.
Right.
Right. Like it's feast or famine in this
Right.
business.
That's very true.
I want to hear about your famine years.
Oh boy.
I'm almost all famine years. I just got to feast years. Like just a minute ago, I was famine years.
What did you do
And I will
during-
let you know.
Yeah.
What did you do? How did you keep yourself going during the lean years?
The lean years, like artistically or like eating.
You know what?
The
Both.
theme is barbecue.
Both.
Yeah. That's true. I guess artistically the lucky thing for me was that I found improv, and I came up as an actor and I went to school for acting, and then obviously acting is hard, as you've heard, and you don't work quickly. It takes a minute, unless it's
Surviving as an
yeah.
actor is hard.
Yeah.
Acting is.
Acting is so easy. Acting is so easy. But so anyway, I think I found improv at a place called the Upright Citizens Brigade, where I performed for a good long decade. If I didn't have that, I don't know what I think it's hard. There are a lot of actors in LA, and I always think
More arrive every day.
every day. And I always think, like, what do you, if you don't, because you don't work very much. Even if you work, you don't work very much.
Right.
And there needs to be like some sort of outlet. Anyway, doing improv, I need to have more coffee.
Do you though?
Yeah.
For me, I would say the very same thing. Everyone should take an improv class, by the way, whether you have any hope of ever being in comedy or theater or anything.
What does one get from that? If I'm not an actor, why would
Right.
I take an improv class?
Because it is so life-opening. You realize that when you walk off the back line into an improv scene, in order to accomplish an improv scene, you have to agree, you have to be positive and affirmative, you have to work together, you have to listen and react. So instead of sitting there planning what you're going to say next, all you have is what your scene partner is giving you. And it's such a great and an empowering life skill. You realize that it's going to fail. What you're trying to accomplish is impossible. So it will suck the first few times, the first few thousand times. And then you realize, like, oh, that kind of stunk, and then you're like, but I'm fine. Like,
Right.
that doesn't ruin my life.
Yeah.
When you're willing to look silly and to fail, you almost never do. It's when you try to stay in control and buttoned up and look like you have all the answers that I think that's when you're really vulnerable, and it breeds defensiveness. So taking an improv class teaches you to be curious and to ask questions and to learn about what's out there instead of going like, oh, I don't know about that, I'm going to be over here. You go, I don't know about that. Fill me with, you're not like, yeah, it doesn't make you weak or silly not to know the answer. Like, you don't know the answer yet, but you can find it.
And so much of it is about like working with people, and like it's about lifting each other up and making each other look great. And it's not just about you shining. It's about like making your scene partner or whatever, the person you're communicating with, shine.
And that instantly translates to off the stage and into your real lives. And pretty soon you realize the degree to which your family talks over one another and one-ups each other, and you never go home for Thanksgiving again. The other thing I would say, in addition to improvisation, that has, was great long-term grad school in this life was the Thrilling Adventure Hour for me.
Oh, no kidding.
To
That's
have
nice to
done,
hear.
oh, for sure. Ben Acker and Ben Blacker created this staged production in the style of old-time radio that we did once a month, a different show for 10 years. Yeah. And it was stellar. And it, in the course of those 10 years, I think I missed 3.
Yeah.
That's right. And one was, I think, my honeymoon. Like it was, it was so important to each of us that like you made time, you flew back, you made it happen that we could be there. And then eventually we took it to lots and lots of conventions around this country, and then to Australia and New Zealand, and yeah, that was.
But there's something to doing the work, right?
Playing a character over 10 years.
Doing that thing on a regular basis, whether it's every week or every month, putting your art out there, putting yourself out there.
Huge.
I don't like that I just said art.
I know you said art.
I know.
And then
I meant craft.
Yeah. No. Worse.
No. Please. We were building cabinets for every month for 10 years. Let me ask, in regard to improv, it is a character building sort of exercise. Did it help, and D'Arcy, I don't know if you've talked about this on the Good Place podcast, but does it help a first day situation?
Does improv help a first day?
Does improv help sort of train for that?
Yes.
Those emotions you could be overwhelmed with walking in on the first day. Tell us about your first day on the Good Place. Do you remember?
Oh, okay. Let's see. First day was like literally like what the scene was, what the vibe was.
Sure.
It was.
Or your impressions of or how you felt walking onto that set.
I was so. It wasn't that long ago, but it feels like 1 million years ago. I felt very like present. I was like taking everything in. You know what I mean? Like not really being aware that this was like a big moment in my life, something that I had been like waiting for. And the first scene I shot was in Tahani's mansion.
It got cut.
It did get cut.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was a funny, an interesting thing that maybe the idea was that Kristen, who plays Eleanor, you know that. Her name's Kristen
Bell.
Kristen, oh, okay, thank you.
She's
From Frozen's?
Yes, Frozen's.
Doesn't have to be a snowman.
She called in Janet. Now I played Janet, and my name's D'Arcy Carden. Okay, so she was calling me in to basically ask why she was not drunk. She was drinking so much and she couldn't get drunk, right? And so there was sort of like a world building thing, which is I said, "Oh, you in the Good Place, you can't get drunk unless you want to get drunk," which maybe sort of bled in there somewhere. But this
a version
was like,
of it gets
this was a scene that was saying this is something, and then she gets really drunk. Anyway, long story short, it did get cut, but it was it was great. It was great. We sort of instantly bonded as a cast, and between Ted and Kristen had done this before. Yeah, dancing. But Jamila and Will and Manny and myself, it was sort of our first, not sort of, it was our first real show, So
You called yourself?
We did call ourselves the Babies for the first couple years. We probably still do, the Babies. Sure. Even though Kristen is the same age as us. Ted is actually older. But
Ted Danson.
But anyway, the babies, we did a lot of like looks at each other, a lot of kind of like, this is really happening. The day after, I think I was the last person of the 6 to get cast, And the day after I got cast, Mike Schur brought us all into his bungalow office that we, why did I say bungalow?
It's a bungalow.
It's a bungalow. But I didn't need to say that. I could have said office.
You used an accent that wasn't necessary.
Bungalow.
Bungalow.
And we had a little meeting where it was just sort of like, here are your fellow castmates. And I think all of us were just basically like side-eyeing Ted Danson the whole time, trying to be like, this is fine and normal. And then when it was done, the babies, we like gathered out in front of Mike's office and like held hands and exchanged phone numbers. And we were like, is this really happening? Yeah. It was.
No, you would.
That's great.
Because everything you've been taught teaches you that it's probably not happening.
Right. And we had a weird situation with this particular show, which is that we knew it was going to be 13 episodes. Right. So often when you shoot a pilot, you can bond with the cast and the crew and the writers and then never see them after that.
So often.
Mostly, right?
In my experience.
Yeah. I mean, mostly. Most pilots are just pilots and then that's it.
Absolutely.
So this was a cool one where it was like, we know we're going to spend a good chunk of this year together.
That's interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that. Yeah. You knew.
Marc, as long as I have known you, you have walked into a room and said sort of, I got this, no problem. Was there a time when you had first day of school jitters on a job?
So sure. I mean, I'm, as it turns out, human. Where
are you from?
Prove it.
I'm from Earth.
I don't know, man. Yeah.
Catchphrase. Wasp nostrils. So, honest to goodness, for different reasons, not about starstruck reasons, although that did happen on this show, I will never forget meeting D'Arcy Carden because, and I've told bits of this story, and I don't think I've told this element of it. I was offered the role of Shawn, and the show was super embargoed still to that point, because I think I come in episode 10 or so of 13 of the, 10 or 11 of the first season, and no one knew what the show was. So the sides I was sent a week before or whatever, my people called and they said, Mike Schur has this thing he wants you to do. We're not sure what it is. We'll look into it. And I was like, I don't care what it is. Yeah. It's Mike Schur. I'm going to do it. And they're like, well, let us find out. And I was like, make it clear to him I'll do it. And so they sent the sides over, the samples of the script that we'd be shooting on Monday morning. And at that point in the, I hope you've seen The Good Place, because I'm about to spoil some stuff.
Wait, actually I am curious. Has anybody not seen the finale of the first season? And it's okay if that's true. Okay, cool.
All right, good.
Someone's lying.
You can feel it. You can feel it. So the sides that they sent over, the script, had characters named Real Eleanor and Fake Eleanor, because at the time Tia Sircar, who's Vicky, was playing the real Eleanor, like the saintly, philanthropist, rescuer of humanity, which was a lie. And so I emailed Mike, I think, on like the Friday before, and I was like, hey, buddy, what?
What dis?
What is this? And he was like, come to work on Monday, it'll be great. And I was like, okay, not an answer. And so Monday morning, I was like, are you in your bungalow? Like, can I come over and get a quick brief? And he was like, I'll be there. Bungalow. And he was like, I'll be there in a minute. And there's a knock on my door. Bucky knocks on my door, and he's like, we're ready for you in hair and makeup. And I was like, okay. Yeah. And I came in, I met you, and you, I remember you said, oh, hi, I'm D'Arcy. You knew me from Parks and Rec. You recognized me from Parks and Rec. There used to be a show called Parks and Recreation, on which I played attorney Trevor Nelson from the law firm Four Dips, Winchairs, Grit, Babbitt, Pacote, of Orpin Eckstein.
Yes! Thank you for doing that.
So good.
And you were like, oh, wow, hi, do you know what's going on? And I was like, no, not a thing. And you were like, okay, I played Janet. That doesn't mean anything to you now, but it will. If you were Janet, you were basically, hi there. Like, you were like, if you need anything, I will tell you as much as I'm able to tell you. Went through hair and makeup, go back to my trailer, get in wardrobe, there's a knock on my door, no, it's Mike Schur. It's not. It's Bucky saying, we have a van waiting for you to take you to set. And I was like, oh my gosh.
God.
Mike Schur comes up the stairs right behind him. and goes, we just need a minute.
Yeah.
And he sits down on the couch in my trailer, and I sit at the desk, and he goes, I'm about to give you a great deal of information. And he super did. He ran down all of like season 1, and for the first 5 minutes, I'm going like, fast forward.
Like,
Like
I
I
don't
don't
need
need
all this.
I don't need the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Right.
And then I did need the whole thing.
Yeah.
And he goes, holy motherfucking shirt balls, they're never going to call a train to take us to the bad place. They can't. We're already here. This is the bad place. And then he described Ted's reaction that we hadn't, that we would shoot a month later. And he goes, do you have any questions? And I said, yeah. They let you make this? And Mike Schur said, yes. In fairness, I hadn't told the network the whole thing until about a month ago. And then he walks out, and I'm shell-shocked, and I get in the van.
Shell-strop,
Shell-strop. Eleanor
Shell-strop.
Shell-strop. I slide open the door of a van, and Ted Danson's in there, and he goes, hi, I'm Ted. Thanks so much for doing this. It's like, what is happening? And he's in the first row of bench seats in the van. I get in the row behind him. He turns around and he's like, do you have any questions? I was like, uh-huh. And we're talking about stuff, and I'm saying, so if I'm starting to ask some specific questions, and he like leans forward, he references the rear view mirror and the Teamster driver, and he's like, oh, shh, shh, shh. And I was like, the crew doesn't know? And he goes,
Nobody knew.
Yeah.
It was they really kept it such a secret.
yeah. We had to sign out our sides in the morning and sign them
Yeah,
back in.
yeah.
You couldn't throw anything out. Like,
Yeah.
Bonkers.
Unbelievable. All right. Does anyone have a question before we?
Can I just do one thing?
I'll allow it.
I'll allow it.
This is a podcast about the podcast as well?
Yeah, we were going to get into it. So we want to talk about the making of the podcast.
Okay.
And this may be
Can I just frame it, though, first?
I wish you would.
I'm begging you.
Welcome to the good place.
Oh.
This is going to be 5 minutes. I can feel it. Welcome to the good place, the podcast. The podcast. I'm Marc Evan Jackson. I play Shawn. Our guest today is D'Arcy Carden, who plays Janet, Bad Janet, Neutral Janet, as well as Cheaty Janet, Jason Janet, Tahani Janet, and Eleanor Janet. And our host is Ben Blacker, creator of The Writers Panel and The Thrilling Adventure Hour. Ben Blacker, D'Arcy Carden, welcome. Everything is fine.
Sorry, I f***ed up. That was really good. God, you're good at that.
Marc Evan Jackson, the podcast is phenomenal, and you do a terrific job hosting it. I can only assume it's a one-man operation that you spend hours and hours, days planning for, poring over episodes, looking at notes, preparing interview questions. Tell me about that process, please.
I'm not sure how much of your
I
question
know.
is a bit.
Yeah.
Started as a bit,
But
then you hit
is
it.
Very true.
Yeah.
I'm very good at this.
It is far from a one-man operation. It's several one-person operations, I think, siloed. It's a lean little machine. NBC came to Mike Schur and Morgan Sackett, the executive producers of NBC's The Good Place, and said, we want to do a podcast. And they said, no. Yeah. And then they called me, and they were like, we'll do it if you do it. And I was like, I'll do it. Yeah. Because I am first and foremost a fan of The Good Place. And so they put me in touch with a wonderful producer named Grant Rudder, who's got a lot of experience in podcasts, because I don't listen to podcasts. I don't understand podcasts.
This is rude.
This is true, though.
Yeah.
This is when we
real.
were doing Thrilling Adventure Hour. Jackson did not know how to find the podcast.
Right. That
He'd
totally
never
adds
heard
up.
it.
Yep, I get that.
You're using the past tense, which seems...
Yeah, just because you have a podcast doesn't mean you. Yeah.
So Grant is a great producer with a history in this stuff, and he gets it. And Trey Booty is our editor. Booty. And then Lizzie Pace was a writer's assistant. I think now she's a writer for the show. She
Yeah.
wrote an episode this season, and she wrote some intros and outros. And Ted and D'Arcy came in and voiced those.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that.
Yeah.
I love those bumpers,
Do
the
you?
Janet bumpers.
Yay.
They're so charming. They really bring you into the world and the tone of both the show and
Yay.
the podcast. And I was curious about, like, do you sit and knock those out in a sitting?
Yeah.
And is it
Each
Lizzie
season.
Say
Yes.
that again? Lizzie wrote. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember it was the start of season 3, right?
I think so,
That
yeah.
we did our first.
It was between seasons 2 and 3, I feel
Okay.
like, right?
And I think, and the first read through of the first episode of season 3, you asked Ted and I to come downstairs and do those bumpers, and we were like, what is this gonna be?
Yeah.
A podcast
What's
about
it
our show that's on the air now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Did one of us commit a murder?
Yeah.
Is that- That's all I know about podcasts.
Yes, totally. Yeah. So I do remember that doing that bumper was the first time I played Janet back from like a long hiatus.
Oh, wow,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I remember Ted and I were sitting across the table from each other with little microphones like this and a little tiny
Little screens, yeah.
and we were like, here we go.
Yeah.
Do you remember how to play Michael? Do I remember how to play Janet? Let's see.
You super do.
Yeah, we did.
It was
This
wonderful.
is this may be a weird question, but I don't know anything about acting.
Okay.
And is it different playing? Like I forgot that you're sitting at a table when you do these podcasts. Is it weird playing Janet sitting down talking into a microphone?
Whoa, specifically sitting down, yes,
Yeah.
because Janet never sits down.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, for some reason doing the bumpers of the podcast is not too hard. It's just, she's just a smile and a voice, you know what I mean?
It is interesting, though, I will say, like, when you just recorded the ones, I think, for the summer hiatus, the notable fans of The Good Place guesting, we've had...
Have you had anyone good on there?
Busy Phillips is on.
She's pretty good.
Business
Pretty good.
Phillips is
Full
Full
name.
name, Christian name.
Yes.
Byzantine Phillips. I don't know what's been out there. I'll spoil it. Paul Scheer did one.
It's out there.
It's out there. Okay. Mike O'Malley, the guard,
Not out
the
there.
doorman, is out there.
Not out
and
there.
just the other day, we recorded in the.
Wait, are you sure?
Why not?
You want to say this?
Do it.
Okay.
These people won't tell.
Have you heard of Lin-Manuel Miranda? So have I.
Yeah.
What a delight.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's cool. That's a scoop, y'all.
That's an exclusive, ATX exclusive. Our lives are weird, and several months ago, I don't know when, maybe a year ago, like my phone dinged, and I looked at it, and it said, "Lin-Manuel Miranda followed you back," and I was like, "What?" And then he did an episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine not long ago, and I DM'd him, and I was like, "Hey man, super great work, that was really funny." He wrote back instantly and said, "Thank you, Maestro, nearly caught up on The Good Place, the podcast." And I was like, "What?" Maestro, and he listens to the podcast? He'll hear this, I guess. Hi, Lynn.
Hello, Linda.
We just recorded
yeah,
with
hi,
him
Lynn.
the other day in his swanky hotel suite, and we went to him. And he is just the loveliest, like most authentic, in a very Kristen Bell, Ted Danson way, like an authentically great, joyful, wonderful person who took a question from my 17-year-old niece who's mounting In the Heights in her high school about choreography, and then he made a video for her afterward, like,
He
just
rules.
amazing.
Yeah.
It does seem like there was a type of person who was attracted to these Mike Schur shows.
I was just going to say that. The
I-
people that
You say it.
I am that person.
Okay, so I'll say it. It does seem like there's a type of person.
Welcome,
who's
everything is fine.
attracted to- the people that are. I mean, this is a compliment to
It's
you
you,
guys.
we're talking about you.
The people that are into these shows are smart and cool as hell. Yeah. That's what it ends up being. Is like really smart, really cool people.
That's not pandering, like that's legitimately
True,
true.
yes.
Very listening, very smart, like we'll watch an episode more than once. Like
Yeah.
these aren't shows that you can like be ironing in the next room to. Like you have to
I
watch
l-
these shows.
Yeah. It is. It's people that are like really invested in.
Yeah.
with great senses of humor.
It's real.
It's real. Yeah.
People
Like-
who tend to have empathy.
Yes.
I think watch these shows.
Yeah. We like you guys.
To close the loop on the podcast, I will just tell you that like Grant Rudder and I had like one call, and he was like, "I'd like to include this," and I was like, "Cool, I'd like to do this." Like I was raised on National Public Radio. I worked for National Public Radio affiliates in West Michigan for a while, so that's the music of conversation that I hear, and then just as an improviser. So I was like, I want it to be, pro sounding, but then like super loose, and we tell everybody like, if you need to look up the name of that person that you worked with because you can't remember it, do it, and we'll edit it out, and swear, and we'll make Trey Booty put in forking and ashhole.
I remember the first time I did the podcast, Grant, who's the one of the producers, he was like, "Please don't. It's so much more work." And then I swore so much on purpose.
For sure.
I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
no.
Lin-Manuel would be like, and it was so great, forking great, and I was like, he's still got to replace it.
He'll do that.
Like,
Yeah.
he's still got to go back in. I mean, he's got to replace what we just said.
Yep. Oh yeah, that's
Hi,
true.
Trey.
Sorry, Grant.
Hi, Trey.
Fuck you, Grant.
All right, let's get some questions from you all. If you have questions, please come up to the microphone. As I said, let's remember the rule about questions.
Yes, remember the rule, please. Very long-winded prefaces. We can't take your questions, and we need to know everything about you.
Minor surgeries, major surgeries, anything. Questions begin with a W or an H, not with an I, and they end with a question mark. Shoot.
God damn, that's so
Good. That's really good. I'm stealing that from now on.
We've heard some really wonderful stories on the podcast about emotional moments of realization on the show, making the show. I'm curious, in the making of the podcast, have there been things that you've learned hosting it, Marc, being on it, D'Arcy, that have particularly emotionally touched you about part of the process that someone else was a part of?
For sure. It's the writing. It's where these moments happen in the writer's room. I don't think I knew anything about a writer's room. I think I may have said this at the panel yesterday, which feels like 2 weeks ago.
We stayed out late.
Austin has a lot to offer. I think I used to think I could be a showrunner or that I'd be in a writer's room someday, and I don't have what it takes. These people are very special, and I think that when you hear the genesis of some of these storylines, or even just a turn of phrase, or I can't say that because it hasn't. That's season 4. But
I think you can say it.
No,
I think it's fair.
You know that our hearts are pounding right now, right? Like,
I am legitimate. I did just start sweating.
Yeah.
You said, I don't know if I can say that, season 4, and my hands just got real
it was
sweaty.
a Statsky thing. It's something from Statsky's real life that has made its way, and it's just a turn of phrase. It's
Jen Statsky, one of our writers.
Yeah.
Also my best friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's news.
How does that make you feel?
Wow. It's the injection, I think, of what I've learned about the writer's room is that they dissect everything. They talk about all of it. And there's a lot of their own experiences that go into creating these moments. And I will just warn you that season 4 is going to be great. Yeah.
I listen to every episode of the podcast. I love it.
Why? Oh, my goodness.
No,
Thank you.
And it is it's so great to hear everybody. You know, I love that you have guests from every aspect of the show.
Not craft. We got to do that.
Yeah, we got to do that. Get Terry in there. Wow. Good morning. It's so lovely to hear these people talk about this show.
Yeah.
I'm specifically remembering when we did the podcast about the Janet's episode, the vibe of that room, it was like everybody was almost like on the verge of tears. Not exactly, but it was like it felt very fresh, and everybody was sort of just like looking at each other, being like, "I love you."
Well, it's as a listener to the podcast, as a fan of the show and the podcast, it's really incredible hearing the people who make the thing love the thing as much as we all love the thing.
I'm going to tell a story about 313. So we were at a table read, a network table read of episode 313, the season 3 finale. Chidi's memory, memories of things you may have forgotten, the clip show that Michael plays for Eleanor and Chidi, and then the scene in Michael's office between Eleanor Shellstrop, Kristen Bell, and Janet, where Eleanor says, like, tell me the answer. Right. Just tell me the answer. This is aired, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good. We do lose track because okay, my heart is pounding.
You're good. You
It's
got it.
the season finale.
Yes, we
Season
saw
finale.
That. We saw that.
And we're at this table read full of people that work on the show, network executives. The cast, we're all seated at a table. And D'Arcy, talk about the lines where you're saying to Eleanor, like, there is no answer. Right. You had to pause.
Yeah, it was funny. Like when I had read the script the night before, I cried while I was reading it. But you kind of like get that out of your system, and then
Or so you think.
Or so you think, and then I like. It is embarrassing to cry in front of a group of people and people that you work with. So I just took like a deep breath before I did it, and then my voice broke, and then had to cover my face with my script, like, well, this is embarrassing. Take a deep breath, start again. Nope, can't get it again. Okay.
The room is silent.
Yeah.
Like the room, nobody can breathe.
Right.
They all have the scripts in front of them. They all know what's happening. D'Arcy takes just a moment to regroup. Jamila went first, I think. Jamila began crying immediately. I'm a close second.
Yeah.
Like I carry a handkerchief, and like I was like,
Yeah.
and I looked out. Network executives are weeping.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
No. Kristen
Those
was
people are
full-
monsters.
Full crying. No, they're the best. They're literally the best.
Yeah.
Ours are. Yeah, it was an emotional. Ours are. Yeah, it was very emotional. And then
gosh.
On set again, like that. That's not a scene that Janet needs to be crying in. But I could not get through that scene.
I came to set. I wasn't working that day. I came to set to see that scene be shot. Some of the writers that weren't helming that episode, Schofield was there. Like, you knew that you were going to be watching history go in the camera. Like, it was amazing. And I was in Video Village. They put up all the monitors, and we're there. And I will never forget. It was a later take where you did this, where you said, you got to the end of that, and you said to Kristen Bell, in the words of someone I love, and you did Manny's mouth, you went, I got you, dog. And like we're like, oh my God, oh my God. Like,
Oh, that's so cute.
Um,
even David Miller, like people that don't cry. Yeah.
That's lovely. I'm going to ask you to keep your answers shorter. There are a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I want to make sure, and I don't know what time they're going to kick us out of here.
We're good.
We're good.
Sorry, I had to do that to you, Ben.
You did it.
W's, H's.
I just had to do it.
No, you did it.
I love you, Ben. So, Marc, you often refer to the show as the smartest, dumbest show on television.
That is correct. It's an unusual half hour of American network television.
Exactly. So my question is, what's your favorite smartest moment, and what's your favorite dumbest moment?
Okay. Without a doubt, dumbest moment is Manny. Like everything that Manny does. Oh my God. He is so dumb.
His character.
Jason. Yes, Jason. No, that's the funny. I mean, Manny is smart as hell and sharp, and clearly he's acting. But I love that character. I think if Mike Schur was here right now, he would say he set out to make the dumbest character that has ever been on television.
And he wrote for Pratt.
Right. That's part of it. Truly, it was like dumber than
It's a different
Andy
kind
Dwyer.
of dumb,
Yeah.
or even dumber.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a specific one. I there's so many. It would just be naming Manny's greatest hits.
The dumbest moment that was not a Megan Amram, it was a Statsky, was in Australia in the beginning of season 3 in the MRI. Claustrophobia. Why would anybody be afraid of Santa Claus? Like,
But there's more. The rest of it doesn't he say, "Oh, that's right, the Jewish."
That's what makes it a
That
great
is it.
joke.
Yes.
that's what makes it the
Like
smartest.
there's the low-hanging fruit, and
yeah.
then this incredible tag on it.
Yeah.
So good.
So that's both. That's the
yeah,
smartest
that's it.
and the dumbest.
That's it.
Yeah.
Next
Yes,
question,
That
please.
is it.
I will tell you that one of my first lines in season 1 is an
Hello.
example that I've forgotten that I used to cite regularly, which was not that it's the smartest, but it's the prose of it, it's the poetry of it, which is, I'm at Michael's desk and I say about Bad Janet, I'm still the judge at this point. I rule the fart inadmissible as evidence, and then I think my line is something of like, it's not pentameter, but it's like, I rule the fart inadmissible as evidence. What is of concern is the recent development of Eleanor stealing my train. Like, that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like, that's song. Like,
Yeah,
it's,
that's
yeah.
yeah.
That
Yes.
doesn't happen on Two Broke Girls.
Which
As often.
Okay. Hi, I have 2 quick questions. One, I love how you covered the finale and had Mike and Ted on for the podcast, obviously, but will you have Megan and Jen on for
Together?
about the writing about that episode? Because Pandemonium was incredible.
Pandemonium was incredible.
Yes.
I would love to. We also, like, it stands out that we haven't had Will or Kristen on about it as well.
True.
You know,
yeah,
or
just
Darcy. Like,
their writing
there's so
is
much.
Fun to have-
beautiful.
yeah, to do more
and
than
the fact
one
that,
episode.
Like, Mike didn't even know about like what Pandemonium was. And
Yes.
the episode name, like
Yes.
that's really cool. So,
Yeah.
Listen to
yeah.
the podcast if you want that
Oh,
story.
sorry.
No,
Yeah.
no. That's
Yeah,
not
no,
a
it's
spoiler.
a
It's
great
out.
story.
Craft services in too. Wasn't the burrito like kind of like the breakfast burrito you have on set? Kristen Bell said something like that.
Wait, say that again? Say that
like,
again?
There's like a big breakfast burrito y'all have on set, and
Yeah.
like it looks like the burrito from the burrito episode. So
Yeah, baby.
craft services, all,
you got
back to
that right.
craft services. Anyway, my main question is, I was thinking about this a lot. Like, what would like William Jackson Harper asked what is your bad place a couple days ago? He like tweeted it out, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking mine would be honestly the medium place, just loneliness,
Right.
alone, survival mode. That's horrific.
Warm
I
beer.
would like, yeah, right. Like I'm sober, I would definitely ask for a beer, and I would definitely be super horny. So I mean, that makes sense. So like, it does. But I mean, like, what is your guys' bad place for real?
I think solitude, right? Like, and I mean loneliness, like
Yeah.
isolation. I think
Like
would
solitude's
be
good for 1 or 2, maybe a day, but not.
like a weekend. But yes, I think that to be devoid of human interaction would be, you know, the loneliest, saddest, my bad place.
Yeah. Mine would be like on from point A to basically the entire spectrum of FOMO. So like the easy stuff of FOMO, but then also like
Fear of missing out.
fear of missing out.
Thank you.
But then even like as deep as FOMO can go, like maybe even like not being with loved ones and stuff like that. Something about you know, things are happening and I can't be there, you know? Yeah.
Thank you for that uplifting question.
Also not uplifting.
No.
Hello. So Battle Royale, all good place characters. Who lives? Who comes out the victor? And how?
But you know the answer to that.
Okay.
Janet lives.
I have a story about that.
Yeah.
So, it's such a funny world. Like it's almost like a superhero world or whatever. And
Yeah, everyone's already dead.
The writers' room, you know, establishes canon and whatever. And in the episode where D'Arcy lifts me by the throat and throws me against the wall, a stunt I did myself.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was going to do the second part of the stunt because they do, Michael and Janet have some words, and then I start to wake up. Shawn starts to wake up, and Janet like place kicks him into the wall. And I was like, I'll do that part too. And the stunt team was like, why don't we let Jeremy try it first? And I was like, okay, but I'm doing it. And we did once, and I was standing next to Dean Holland at the monitors, and you did it, and they threw him against the wall so violently that I was like, moving on.
Yes.
Like, I don't
We did that
have to do it.
Yeah, even for the stunt guy, he did it one time.
And
It
stunt people
was-
get hurt.
They get hurt.
They get
sometimes,
hurt a
yeah.
lot.
He
Yeah.
really.
He got hurt.
It was great. We used the take. He did his job, but like when he stood up, there was like red in his eyes.
Yeah. But my point is this.
Yeah.
So I said to Mike Schur, like, you know, is this the end of Shawn? And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm fine if it is. I just, like, is this the end of Shawn? And he was like, no. Janet's can't kill demons. And I was like,
Why don't you know that? Right.
sorry,
Read the
bro.
Bible, Mark.
Right.
Right, like, yeah, like, I don't know the rules of
Yeah.
the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Janet's.
Janet wins. I mean, who?
It seems like Michael wins.
No, Janet wins.
It seems like. Next question.
Thank you.
Uplifting. What would your personal good place ice cream flavor be?
Yeah, great song. It would be my good place ice cream flavor. We mean frozen yogurt, right? Yeah. It would be like the taste of being in the front row at your favorite concert. You know what I'm saying?
What?
You're basic. You know that story, right? Was it Beyonce?
Yeah, it was Beyonce.
Yeah, yeah. My favorite, my good place frozen yogurt flavor would be
Chocolate.
Plain. A broad reach running down Penobscot Bay in a 100-year-old schooner in 10 knots of wind.
No, but say it in English.
That's what I love about Jackson is he's so relatable. He's a man of the people.
We were talking last night. We were out on the patio of this place that we're in last night, and schooners came up, and somebody, Jamie Denbo, goes, "Where are you from?" And I said, "The past." Which is not a lie.
Come up. Yeah. Okay.
Next question, please.
So the podcast is amazing. If there was
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You mean this one that we're doing?
You mean the good place, the podcast,
one?
the podcast,
yeah,
right?
podcast,
Be specific.
If you could podcast about any other TV show, what would it be and why?
It's a good one.
Mine would be Friends.
Would it?
It would
Yeah.
just yeah.
Episode by episode.
What's that?
Episode by episode.
Yes, episode by
500
actually.
episodes.
Jen Statsky, one of the writers, and I wanted to do a Friends podcast.
Please do.
But I think there are. I think there are them.
But
is
not with
the
you
sentence.
doing them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we really want to. Okay, fine. We're doing it. It's greenlit. We're doing it.
ATX exclusive.
Serious answer, probably Parks and Recreation is a show that I feel like people still find and still come across and are like, well, I'll try one, and then wake up weeks later and it's like, oh, I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like legitimately, I think that's a show that could get this kind of love.
You should do that. By the way.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I feel like, is a show that maybe this sort of thing may come up at some point. Maybe.
That's a horrible.
And then like.
Imagine it from my side.
I'm so sorry.
So uncomfortable.
I can make it worse. Not joke answer, but I could also do it about.
Say it. Go ahead.
I don't know if you know what I'm going to say.
You say what you're going to say, and then I'm
you
going
have
to
to
give you
say
something
what-
else.
Spencer for Hire. Airwolf. And the original Edward Woodward, The Equalizer.
I did not see that one coming.
What did
You
you
are
think?
also, I think people don't know about you.
Oh,
you
of
have
course,
a
of
secret
course, of course,
nerd
of course.
tendency.
Stargate SG-1. Yeah.
I could not believe it when I first
Oh,
heard
the show would be called Unscheduled Off-World Activation. Oh, I can. Okay.
You're doing it.
Stay tuned. Stay
Great.
tuned. Stay tuned.
Yeah, we'll stay tuned.
it. Yes, sir.
I just broke this. No, I didn't.
Perfect.
With
God
such like
damn.
an amazing writing team, do they ever give y'all the opportunity to improv, or is the script kind of strict?
The script? Wait, did you say is the script the script?
No,
or did you
is
say
the
stripped?
Strict.
Cool.
Like,
Strict.
yeah,
Stripped.
Like, y'all have
I was
chance
like,
to-
I don't know
Naked.
this term. Is the script stripped?
Or, do you- or can
It's
y'all
an
improv
industry
it?
term.
Yeah.
You're
the
new to the
script-
TV
I am.
industry. It's an
The
industry.
script is so very strict.
Yeah.
But it's a weird vibe, which, like, no one's ever said don't improvise. If we improvise, it is welcome. But we don't improvise. We really, really,
It is so rare.
we truly are word perfect. Like, we don't mess with it.
No.
Like,
I mean, on occasion, if you can't
occasionally.
get through something, you may say, like, may I flip these two clauses or something?
But you ask first.
Yeah.
It's weird. I mean,
It's different than Parks. It's
Right.
different than Brooklyn, for
and,
sure.
And occasionally we will improvise, especially like when I play Bad Janet, I get a lot of like, just say whatever, just be meaner, or just be like, whatever. But or if certain people are there, like when Jason Mantzoukas is there, they truly like rip the script up.
Oh
and throw
my
it away.
gosh.
And especially if it's Jason and us to get, any of this
Any
combination,
improvisers, yeah.
then they kind of let us go nuts. But mostly
I'm thinking of.
a small boy's penis.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course. I'm thinking of the small boys. It's in the gag reel, which I think we just screened for the first time at the Television Academy on Friday, and with hope they'll release because it's
I'm sure, yeah.
bonkers
It's
good.
great.
But like Jason Mantzoukas is a monster, and he will. We were Morgan Sackett. We were in
Mindy's
Mindy
house?
St. Clair's house, and he was saying like he'd been through all these reboots. This is aired, yes.
Yes. Wait, I do have to say, it was 100 degrees that day.
Flies.
There were so many flies that David Neednoggle, our VFX guy, had to edit them out.
Paint them out, yeah.
Okay, anyway.
Gross.
Yeah.
But like, with Manzukis, with Maya, like things grow. Like
Ooh,
in the
Maya.
script it said Paraguay, and later it became like Paraguay.
Paraguay.
Like, but Manzukis was like, he went down the road of like, I'm happy, like I'm in a tuxedo with my classy martini, and I'm happy to report that I'm achieving fully functional male genitals. And then it went down a road of like a little boy's penis. And
I have a 7-year-old's functioning tiny penis, like on and on.
so much so that like Morgan Sackett was directing that episode. He's a very laconic, tall dude, and he came in and he was like, Jason, maybe we should get a couple where you don't say a small boy's penis. Manzukis reads that as like, make it worse.
Yes.
And he does.
And he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. His joy in life is making you break.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
he was getting the martini glass so close to my, like closer and closer to my face. He was like, I'm happy to report. And then, I don't know if this made the episode, but he started taking a sip. It's a novelty martini glass filled to the brim with Spanish olives. And he just, during the rest of our dialogue in that scene, he would take a sip, and you'd hear the olives hitting his tuxedo, just going. And you go like, stop it.
That would, it would be very funny to release that. It was
That's true.
probably 10 minutes of him just trying to mess
Of
with us.
wasted time.
Yeah. Again, 100 degrees, flies everywhere, but we were like, do it again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stripped.
What is the best piece of advice you could give to a fledgling podcast?
Oh.
I'll take this one.
I will give you advice that I shared with D'Arcy not long ago.
Ooh.
You're in the story.
Now I'm listening.
which is advice I got from NPR's Scott Simon years ago, which is that like you're not responsible for the full knowledge of past, present, and future for whatever subject you have. Like, ask earnest questions. If you don't know something about the subject, your audience, some of your audience may not know as well. There are no dumb questions. I mean, do your homework and you know, and study and have things ready to go, but you know, begin a conversation and chat honestly and openly about that. You know, like ask honest questions and stick around for the answer kind of thing. Like you're not responsible for knowing the history of the good place or whatever. Like have real questions and listen to the answer. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Do you too? Do you have the same?
That really is the
Yeah,
best advice.
that is it,
It's
right?
ask
Just
the
like-
questions you
and
will
listen
have
to the answer.
And what?
Okay, so
I'll field this one.
hello.
Hi. Can you talk about where the "What's good" question came from at the end of the podcast?
Sure. Thank you for that question. Grant Rudder and I had one call, and he was like, I want to play a clip from the show that we'll react to. And I was like, great. And I said, I want to open it this way, you know, like to make it clear, like I just wanted to do it the same way every time. So I wanted to say, I'm Marc Evan Jackson, I play Shawn. Just for anybody coming across it for the first time. I said, I want to finish it by saying, go do something good. And I wanted to end each podcast with a little bit of positivity, just something affirmative to put out in the world. So we tell guests, I'm going to ask you what's good. And it can be, I just discovered, you know, a new cut through to get to work, or here's a giant charity that I want to talk about for 5 minutes. Like it can be 30 seconds, it can be 3 seconds. Ben Harris, one of our casting directors, said like, my niece.
Yeah.
You know, like super sweet. And then other people, Mike has talked at length about, you know, givewell.org and things, like longer things. So just I wanted to leave people with a little something positive and then affirm that by saying, thank you for listening. Now go do something good.
All right, this is going to be our last question. Will you come over here and ask it?
Lily. Hi, Lily. This
hold
is
this
Lily.
Are you more good Janet or bad Janet?
Ooh. Thank you.
I'll field this one.
Go ahead, Mark. Oh, okay, yeah.
She's neutral, Janet. End of conversation.
I think I'm more good Janet. I mean, I'm a nasty little but Sorry, Lily.
You're not sorry.
But I am weirdly similar to Janet. There's not that much of a stretch.
I recognized you both, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I am somewhere in the middle. You know what, you guys, can I tell you something? I don't like fart jokes. Do you know that?
No.
That's true.
It's true for me, too.
Isn't it
How
funny?
have we never talked about
I don't
this?
know, but it's so funny that Bad Janet has to fart so much. Oh my God, she has to fart so much. Actually, going back to the episode, your first episode, where you say that you'll rule the fart inadmissible.
Yeah.
The funny thing is in the script, it was like Bad Janet makes a fart sound, okay? And I remember being like, I don't know what it is about farts. Now I'm just talking farts.
Welcome back to Talking Farts.
But it was specifically, I was thinking, okay, I want her to make a fart sound with her mouth, but I don't want her to make a fart sound with her butt. So then when the thing aired, it's so clearly her butt and not her mouth, and that's what got the big laugh. And now Bad Janet farts so much.
So much.
So many butt farts. Anyway, so when it comes to farting, why did I even start?
Was that the question?
That was it, right? Who farts more? Anyway, I think I'm a little good Janet, and there's a little bad Janet in there, and no neutral Janet at all.
I did love. Explain how to play neutral Janet.
Oh, neutral Janet. I would say you just let your face meat hang.
That's my favorite description. I love that description.
Yeah, just have dead face. Yeah.
Love it.
We do need to wrap up, and so I will ask you before we go, Marc Evan Jackson. Marc Evan Jackson. What's good?
Oh, thank you. What's good is the Detroit Creativity Project. My wife and I started a 501c3 nonprofit about 5 or 6 years ago in Detroit. We teach improvisation free of charge in Detroit middle and high schools. And we finished a 3-year study with the University of Michigan and have like hard actual scientific data indicating that for these students, all of whom are in schools at risk of dropping out, and even schools that are at risk of being closed, after a 10-week program, an hour a week for 10 weeks, there's a 40% drop in self-identification for social phobia, social anxiety, and depression. Attendance has improved, and test scores have improved, reading and writing. It's been pretty great. We teach in a program, this was last year, we taught a last period on Friday as part of a business program in one of the high schools. The school's attendance rate is 62% for last period on Friday. Our class was 90%. Wow. And
That's rad.
And I could cry about this right now. We have anecdotal evidence from multiple schools that kids that have skipped school that day have been caught sneaking into the improv project, which I think says a little something about what they get out of it. Please check out dcpimprov.org or DetroitCreativityProject.org.
Yeah, or follow you on Twitter where they can find
You may also follow me on Twitter.
Yeah. At Marc Evan Jackson.
M-A-R-C.
All right, I don't follow.
Lin-Manuel Miranda does.
D'Arcy Carden, what's good?
What's good is Lily, who just asked that question. And I'm being serious when I say we met Lily yesterday. Mm-hmm. And the idea that a child watches our show and loves it the way Lily does, or other kids that we meet, we're not making like a kids show, but kids really connect with it in a way that is so special.
Yeah, for sure.
And so lovely. And we hear all the time that kids watch it with their parents and grandparents, and it is so. I can't explain how. Because I am Lily, right? We are all Lily.
I'm Lily.
Right? Yeah. We are here because we love TV and it affected us in some way. And when I saw Lily's eyes yesterday, when she walked into the green room, I was like, oh damn, I am Lily. I know this. I know this kid. I feel you. TV is, there's a lot of weird things and a lot of bad things, but there's a lot of good things about it. And seeing Lily's eyes yesterday when she saw us was good.
Hear, hear.
Yeah, well, thank you both so much. Marc Evan Jackson, D'Arcy Carden, Thank you all for coming out. Please enjoy the rest of your fest.
Go do something good.